but they can't see us just yet. Oh, let's say all the really controversial things now, and then get that out of the way.
Batman dies next week. That's going to be an announcement.
Oh shit! Cool. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Ozymandias is the guy who created the universe.
Yep. Metal is actually about them building a metal Batman.
Okay.
To replace Bruce Wayne.
That sounds tight. All right.
Yep. And then it's going to be followed up by Superman Mallow. That's when Superman gets replaced by a marshmallow creature.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Superman Mallow.
And that'll, I guess, since DC and IDW have such a strong relationship, they can start bringing it into the Ghostbusters.
Yes, the Ghost that will directly lead into Superman versus the Ghostbusters.
Let me tell you, Dan Schoening, who draws that book, he would be like, "Okay, I'm in."
That would be so insane, but I'd be down for it too.
Right? Not an ounce of pretension on that guy. He'd be like, "Okay, let's do it."
Oh man!
But
and then after that, it'll be followed by Wonder Woman. Not there.
Right.
That's where Wonder Woman just decides to sit in her invisible plane and nobody can see her.
Oh, cool. So it's 6 issues. That's a conservative estimate. I assume that it's kind of bringing her back to her roots as like the JSA's personal assistant, kind of like writing down notes and everything. Oh man! Just going away.
Just took the notes. That's terrible.
I know, it's rough. All right.
That's a thing that I do hope. I do hope there's a nice little wink at the Justice Society in the movie that's upcoming.
Yeah, especially since it'll be in like kind of like the golden age. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
It'd be a nice little wink, even if it's even if it's something as simple as like one of the army guys she meets or something like that has like the same name as one of the JSA members. Like say she meets a Sergeant Nelson.
Yeah.
And we could be like, oh, that's Kent Nelson, cool.
Right. I feel like we're gonna see the Blackhawks.
Oh, I could see that, yeah.
Or at least we'll have a reference to it. Like, oh, we got these.
There's nothing to say that that scene where you see Steve flying the plane.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to say that he's just not a member of the Blackhawks.
Right? I know. Just put the freaking logo on the side of the plane or on his ID card or something. Boom. Yeah. And you've got instant cred.
Very simple. Yeah, that would be a good pull.
Thanks.
I wouldn't have considered that. That's a good one.
Right? The Blackhawks are cool. You got instant.
Let's see. What else? I like how the people in the chat are like, "Oh, who's here? Oh, definitely Jason. Yeah, sounds like Jason."
Yeah. I love when they speculate. And it's like, guess what? You figured it out.
Oh man, it's been a while, dude.
Yeah, right. I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, we're gonna do this finally.
On March, my March went a little crazy.
I hear you.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Are you heading into any good comic book conventions soon?
I wish. I'm actually going through withdrawal. We did Emerald City, and then C2E2 kind of got pulled out from under me, and WonderCon never materialized, and so I was like, I guess that's it. I mean, like, for me, like, the only con that I'm like kind of gunning for right now is actually the local con that's like in my backyard called the Garden State Comic Fest. Okay. And I'm like, if they give me a panel, I'll go to that. If they don't, then I'm never going to another one of those shows again.
That's kind of the way that I am with cons right now, because I have a bunch of people that ask me, they're like, oh, are you going to go to this con? Are you going to go to this con? And it's kind of the same thing. Like, if they don't offer me, like, a panel or something like that, it's just, I can't work it into my schedule. But if I can get a panel, then I can like make a video about it or a podcast about it, and then it works.
Yeah, you can justify the whole experience because
Exactly.
it's an expense, and it's not just an expense of money, but it's an expense of time. Like it's
a big expense of time. Yeah, 100%.
Especially if you're going to a con that's kind of like. I hate to say that like many of them are interchangeable at this point, but so many of them are interchangeable at this point.
They really are.
And so it's like, oh, cool, the same retailers are here, the same amount of stuff, and like there's some really diverse cosplayers, but like that's not what I'm here for. So damn it, I don't know. But all right, let's. I guess we can start the show now. That seems like enough. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to the Elseworlds Exchange. I am Sal, and I'm joined today by Jason Inman of DC All Access, and of course his own channel, Jawiin.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things that don't end.
Right? Let's talk about the never-ending battle of Cancellation.
Never ending battle. Look who's on my water glass.
Oh, nice. That is a sweet tune tumbler you got going on there, man.
It is. I don't think it's a tune tumbler. I think I got it from like a Target.
Oh, right on. So, yeah, Target got into the tune tumbler scene like really early. I noticed there's a crap load of like.
By the way, this has nothing to do with our topic. Have you all noticed that Targets now have a nerd section?
They sure do.
With like Funko Pops and T-shirts?
It's like, literally in the electronics section. Like you just go past the DVDs and boom, it is just nerd central. I've considered like buying up a whole bunch of their shit to like enhance the set. And I'm like, and I'm like, good to know that that'll be here for at least a little while. So I
bought a pair of Daredevil socks there once.
Nice.
Just for the simple fact that I never thought they would ever make Daredevil socks.
No, man, we are in a really weird bucket list era of comic collecting and comic book lore, where it's like I never thought they were ever gonna do X, and it's like now whenever anybody asks me like, hey, did you expect them to do such and such? I'm like, yeah. At this point, like, listen, did I expect Colleen Wing to be a breakout character in anything?
And to be the thing that you'd be like, you know what? Iron Fist, Colleen Wing.
Yeah, she's the thing to look out for in Iron Fist. Like, no, I did not expect that. But now it's like, well, whatever. I mean, like, there's a freaking Celestial just sitting in the throne room with the Grandmaster and Loki. Like, come on. There's a giant Kirby.
Was there a Celestial sitting there? I didn't notice that.
It looks like Celestial armor. I don't know. But the thing to really watch out for, and this is, again, not on topic, but behind them is, like, a recreation of a, like, 1960s era Jack Kirby drawing of like a giant machine that the Thing is holding, and it's in the background of the scene, and I'm like, now is it because I know that a lot of the effects aren't finished, so I'm like, is it a placeholder for something else? Is it an Easter egg to tell us that like because that's a drawing from a Fantastic Four issue that we're getting Fantastic Four, or is it just like, well, we're doing a huge homage to Jack Kirby and no one's going to complain about a Jack Kirby machine, like Fox won't notice.
I think that's what it is.
I feel like that's true. But my heart, I want to believe we're in a world where like freaking Peggy Carter fought the Magia family. Like, come on, man! Like we are, in deep dive central.
We are like, I am now convinced we are in the Bizarro timeline.
Yeah.
Just simply for, and I'm not saying on which side of this issue that I am.
Right.
Just simply looking at who our president is and the movies that are coming out, we're in the Bizarro timeline.
Yeah, we got some interesting trade-offs. You know, it's it's like the world.
The Cubs won. We're in a Bizarro timeline.
Yeah, Cubs won. We have a million Marvel shows. DC is making like, there's rumors and like strong ones. I don't know that like maybe they're gonna make 4 Batman movies like in a row of the Bat family. I mean, for the love of God, Joss Whedon, creator of Firefly, is gonna be doing a Batgirl movie. That's anything can happen, ladies and gentlemen. Literally,
anything can happen.
So, like,
and speaking of, let's drop into our topic. Yeah. Speaking of things that should happen, but probably will never.
These are the things. Yes, we just talked about like how the inevitability of everything. Here's some things you're never going to see again. So yeah, Jason, you kind of spearheaded this topic, so I kind of want you to take point on this one, if you don't mind.
So we were talking about, Sal and I were talking about today. Like what should we talk about, lovely audience? And I came up with this idea. I was like, there are a lot of like comic book runs out there that have never ever finished.
Yeah. And
I thought it'd be interesting to talk about them and see like if we ever read them, or would we, at this point in time, with the distance between like the last time the issue released, would we want to see a conclusion?
Right. Yeah. Have they passed the point of relevancy at this point?
Oh yeah. And I will say this. I will spoil a little bit of this. Most of them have.
Yeah.
Most of them, we do not ever need to see this conclusion.
Yeah, when I was doing some research, I noticed a lot of them are image books.
There's some of them, yeah. There's a couple really big Marvel books on here.
Yeah.
There actually were a couple that I completely forgot about.
There's some that I didn't even know about, where I'm like, man, I wish I had known about it, but then I remember that they didn't end, so I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad I missed that. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm pulling these from a couple of lists that I found on Comic Book Resources and Newsarama.
Right on.
To give them their credit. And the big one that sticks out, the first one I want to talk about is Daredevil, The Target.
Yes.
Now, this is that mini-series that Kevin Smith was going to do. It had art by Glenn Fabry. If you don't know who that is, he did the covers for Preacher.
So great.
And this was supposed to be the mini-series that was going to reintroduce Bullseye back into the Marvel Universe, because Kevin Smith used Bullseye to kill Karen Page.
Yep.
And he kind of convinced Joe Quesada to be like, hey, don't let anybody use Bullseye until I get to write Marvel again.
Yeah.
They released the first issue. It sold 100,000 copies. And the second issue was never, ever released. And then I know that the conclusion of this was that Brian Michael Bendis, who was writing Daredevil at the time, he's writing the Underboss arc, basically was like, yo, I really want to use Bullseye. Yeah. I'm just going to do it.
Right. Yeah, he completely like clipped the legs out from under Smith's plans, although Smith kind of like never really materialized, so it's fair. Like I can imagine Quesada being like, yeah, Brian, you're our goal. You're gonna be our golden boy here.
Yeah.
We're backing the Bendis horse instead of the Smith horse, because Kevin Smith's permeation into Marvel and his association and affiliation with Joe Quesada is kind of like such that Kevin Smith, if the movie making thing never really materialized again, if Jay and Silent Bob was it, you know, although it's funny because Smith kind of bounces back from everything that should be a career killer for him. I feel like Kevin Smith could have been Marvel's Brian Michael Bendis.
Well,
in an era of Bendis.
I will agree with you on that in terms of ideas, because Kevin Smith has a lot of great ideas.
Yes.
There's one big problem with Kevin Smith, and as a huge fan of him, I say this with all the love, and it's simply because I've seen his movies, I've listened to his podcast, I've read his book.
Yeah.
He's lazy.
Big time.
And as a comic book writer, that's one thing you cannot be.
No. You gotta be hungry, and you gotta be diligent, and you gotta, get on that shit. I mean, Kevin Smith, not only... And that's the funny thing is, when he made Daredevil Bullseye, he still hadn't crawled into the weed cocoon. And
yeah, that's true. That's
so
right. Yeah,
dude was already lazy. Now the dude is, neck deep in reefer. It's you're never gonna see Daredevil Bullseye.
Well,
much less any Kevin Smith comic that isn't just an adaptation of a script he already wrote.
And also, too, fair point. Yeah, where he doesn't have to write it again.
Yeah, exactly.
This will not be the last time that I'll bring up Kevin Smith.
Oh, no. I mean, it's funny, actually. When Daredevil Bullseye came out, he was also working on that Spider-Man Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do miniseries.
Which did finish,
but we were all sure was never going to happen.
Yeah.
Because that had the frequency schedule of, All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, which we'll also get to.
We're going to get to that as well. But yeah, I think Black Cat took 5 years to finish, something like that.
An obscene amount of time for not that great a reward, but at least it did finish. And you know what? It didn't feel like he kind of lost track of it. It felt like it was kind of just, I don't know. There's a consistency to it. It doesn't feel like when you read it all in one sitting, it feels cohesive.
Well, let me ask you this, man, because you're a longtime comic book fan, just like me. This issue definitely comes into this conversation. What do you feel about delays? Because I will tell you that there's only been a couple of times in my life that I've experienced delays that really hit me.
Yeah.
One of them was All-Star Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I remember was Ultimates 2, where they had a year between issue 12 and 13. Now, does a delay really knock your enjoyment of a story?
Only when you're reading it. If you're reading it now, then yes. But if you
it doesn't matter.
But if you're reading it if you're reading it several years down the line, I mean, you just look at Secret Wars or any Frank Miller book. You'll notice that they're irrelevant. The delays are only a big deal when they're happening. But once you've passed it, if the book comes out, I think that you've saved it. If you can stick the landing, then you've saved the book. Because even look at Dark Knight
Watchmen
3.
was delayed at one time.
Watchmen was delayed. I mean, and no one that is a footnote in Watchmen's history. Mm-hmm. The inverse of Watchmen, I think, something like Dark Knight 3: The Master Race, we're seeing delays that are well, I would say they're unprecedented, except we have an entire list of delays and books that are never going to come out.
And I believe Dark Knight 2 was also delayed.
Big time.
Between 2 and 3.
I was reading it when it came out. No, he took a big break between 2 and 3, because it was only 3 issues.
Yeah.
I think it was, after 9/11, he went I got to change the entire 3rd issue, and just threw out whatever he had and rewrote it, and of course redrew it, and oh my god. Yeah, that was a mess. But now it exists. It's just a thing they lump in with Dark Knight that you can read at any time, and at no point is there, if it, and of course, the further away from the internet it is, the less relevant the delay is.
Yeah, totally 100%.
So, yeah.
All right, I'm just curious about this, because here's one that I am so sad, never went anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Grant Morrison and Jim Lee's WildCATS.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
I remember solicitations for it. At that point, I'd already fallen off the Wildstorm train.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I was excited about this idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I still have this issue.
No shit.
Yeah, I still do. Issue number 1, because I'm a big fan. If like Jim Lee draws it, I'll buy it.
Oh yeah.
I try to collect it. It has this amazing cover with Grifter on the front. The first issue is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But then, like, second issue never, ever came out.
Yeah.
It was released in September of 2006, and then nothing ever happened. And I think that, man, Grant Morrison, like, does these amazing things to everything he touches. I would have loved to have seen what he would have done with the WildCATS.
Big time. I mean, it's funny, we're in a time legitimately where Warren Ellis got to reimagine the WildCATS, and now we're getting a totally different book. But Grant Morrison, I'd love to see what he would have done with it, especially back then. For me, here's the question: why? Like, why didn't it work out? Because that's always, for me, whenever there's a delay, I'm always like, all right, what happened? You know, like, what was it? I don't remember who it was. Civil War II. What's his name? David Marquez. His wife had a baby. So it's
I remember that. So they put it in a buffer issue.
Yeah, and there were significant delays, and like people were upset until they found out it's like, oh, the dude had a baby, and it's like, oh, right on, like, okay, but like that kind of piece of information is really helpful when it comes to like this story. I only remember like the ad for it, and so I would love to know, was it like Morrison just got on and was just more interested in Batman? Was it like, did he legitimately just bail on them, or did something just not work out?
Or did Jim Lee just at the time find out that he was like, I just don't have the time to draw this?
Which is fair, because the dude, like, when he finds the time, though.
Well, currently, if you watch Jim Lee's Instagram, you see that he draws late at night.
Oh.
He'll draw at like 1 a.m., 3 a.m. at night.
Oh, that's funny.
And because it's the only time he has to actually draw.
Yeah, because he's not just an artist. Like, he's an executive. He's got work to do.
Yeah, he's the publisher of DC. He's got some stuff to do.
Yeah, you know? Man, it's busy. It was the same thing when I remember when Quesada took over as editor-in-chief of Marvel. Like, he had to, when he was like, if I have time to draw it, I will, but like, I got work to do, man.
Yeah, I got paychecks to fill out.
Exactly. But yeah, man, the Wild. It's funny. Do you think it could have been even as good as what we're getting now, though?
It would have been different. I'm not sold on the Wildstorm yet.
Right.
Because I think it's 2 issues. Well, I'll tell you, this is my thoughts on the Wildstorm.
Mm-hmm.
I like everything I've read so far. I think it's moving very slow.
Yes.
I think it's going to read kind of like Warren Ellis does this thing where I feel that Warren Ellis books read better when they're collected.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I kind of think this is going to be the same thing. Like, when you read this in 6 issues together, you're going to be like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
But right now, like, since we've only gotten 2 issues, I'm kind of like, man, I don't know. It feels like we've gone 2 issues, and I don't feel like much has happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this: I kind of also wish the Wildstorm was double shipping.
Yeah.
Like it's weird because I've kind of now gotten used to DC Rebirth and Marvel. I guess has trained me this way to, like, you know, I only have to wait 2 weeks for a next issue, and waiting a month for Wildstorm is crazy.
Well, at the pace they're going, it's easy to forget it exists.
Yeah, you kind of forget. Like, I kind of find that right now. Every time I get to the next issue, I'm like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, what Wildstorm needed to come out as a trade. Like, it needed to be a graphic novel. It needed to be like,
I'd been down for that.
They had to have like approached that like the Earth 1 series. Just be like, just finish the damn thing. Trust, it's got Warren Ellis' name on it. The art is phenomenal, and it's of course connected to the Wildstorm universe, or at least it's a reimagining of it. Just put out the thing; it'll sell. Like, and then it'll get on the not on the New York Times bestseller list, but on some bestseller lists.
Yeah.
I say that only because,
So another delay, or another story that will never be finished. Sal, do you remember Crossgen comics?
I sure do. I didn't bother with Crossgen, but I do remember them existing and having stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never dipped into them either, although I've now gone back and read Ruse, which was the Mark Waid Sherlock Holmes series.
Yeah.
It's quite good.
Right on.
And then I've never read Sojourn.
No.
But that is like a Kurt Busiek, and it was drawn by Greg Land. It's kind of the book that really made Greg Land like the huge deal that he is now.
Interesting.
And I've always heard that one's good, but I just never have. And it's one of those things that every time I go to like the cheap bookshop, I keep thinking about buying it for $1, but I just never do.
Yeah.
So Crossgen like apparently had a mini series called Negation War in 2004.
Okay.
That brought all their titles together, and then the company filed for bankruptcy, and they never finished that miniseries.
Oh, that couldn't be more appropriate. Like, get everybody together and then sink the ship. Like, that's funny. I can imagine like how sad what a sad day that was for them. Where it's like the inception of that. We're gonna do a big friggin' event. We're gonna get everybody together. It's gonna be huge. And then them being like, well, we're never gonna put this out.
We're never. Oh, okay.
That's
it's funny. Crossgen is specifically responsible. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I went to MegaCon in Florida just because I happened to be in Orlando working for something else, and then I found out that MegaCon was happening, and I was like,
awesome.
I'm going to MegaCon. So I went there, and I started talking, and there was a bunch of creators that I'd never met there before, and I was like, oh, Chuck Dixon, I've never seen you in San Diego. Ron Mars, what are you doing here? And they were all like, well, we used to work for Crossgen, and Crossgen did that requirement where you had to move to Florida to work for them. Like, if you're an artist, you moved to Florida. If you're a writer, you moved to Florida.
Wow.
You moved to Florida.
You all
had to go to Florida, but the guarantee was they were like, we're going to give you health care, and we're going to give you a full-time salary.
Yeah, then then they're making that move, because, like...
Exactly.
That's not guaranteed.
So many of those creators went down there and worked for Crossgen, and they just have never moved since.
Huh. Yeah, well, because no one's ever going to offer them like a severance or anything, or any like moving expenses to like draw for Marvel. Like, it's never going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. The big two are never going to do that.
No.
All right. So here's the guy, the thumbnail.
Yeah.
All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. All right. It did 10 issues over 3 years. The last issue came out in August of 2008, and then I remember. They talked about that they were going to redo it again, and they were going to call it Dark Knight Boy Wonder and release like the last 6 issues.
That's they were going to like try and separate it from the All-Star like logo, like.
Yes, yeah, because they were going to be like, this is in the Dark Knight universe, whatever, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then it just never happened.
No. I remember when All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder came out, as do you, of course, and I remember like.
I bought it.
Yeah. I have every single issue. And by the way, it was easy to buy. I think it was $3 an issue, and buying one issue for $3 every other year or every 2 years was easy. Was an easy requirement to make. Because damn, I think the first 2 issues came out on time, and then from then on out, it was every year, every other year, or like I think it took 3 years for 8 issues to come out.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was just rough.
It is a rough. I mean, the bigger problem is that they spent 5 issues just getting Robin to the Batcave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was like pages with so many caption balloons on it. You're just like, good God.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I love looking at that book every once in a while because, like, man, Robin has never looked better than that book.
That's the thing. Like, anyone who ever says, the old Robin suit sucks, or I don't really care for the old, like, Dick Grayson Robin suit, look at it through the lens of Jim Lee's pencils, and you will be convinced that it is awesome. I mean, like, the dude, like, he can make, eating toast look freaking epic and cool, but, like, the fact is, that book is Jim Lee's AAA game.
Yeah.
Dude is like, I'm working with Frank Miller. I'm clearly doing a prequel to Dark Knight Returns. I gotta do everything I can, and nothing could exemplify that more than I think it's 6-page fold out spread
of the Batcave. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, it's so funny. That was around the same time that Ultimates 2 as well did that giant page where it was all of them fighting the alien, and you had Quicksilver across. Like, pages as well.
That was cool.
Yeah. I will say this, that, like, for all the faults of that story, and there are a lot of them, I do think the idea of Batman and Robin painting a house yellow and then inviting Green Lantern over is hysterical.
Oh my God. Everybody loves that scene. Like, that's, for everyone, like, that's the redeeming moment in All-Star Batman, is him painting that room. I will admit that it's the height of, like, I see what we're doing with this. It's so silly. It's so fun because he's such a dick about it too. Like everyone is ridiculous in that whole series. I remember when they were saying because it came out in I think it started in 2005.
I think you're right. Yeah, 2005.
And the delays started happening, and people were like, "What is taking so long?" And they all assumed that because it's so gorgeous and because Jim Lee has a history, and around that time there was a history the Wildstorm book didn't come out, man, it must just take Jim Lee forever to draw this damn book. And Jim Lee came out and said,
yeah.
It was so funny because he comes out and he goes, "It's not Frank Miller, everybody, it's me." And everyone went, "But we didn't ask if it was Frank Miller, Jim. What's going on here?" And then you think about Dark Knight Strikes Again, and you're like, I think Miller's the one who's taken forever on this book.
Yeah.
Because I remember, he would forget what's happening in between issues. Clearly he's writing each issue right before the deadline, or past the deadline. Because, they're in the car for 13 hours to get from the circus in Gotham to the Batcave? No, that can't be. You mean they published a milk carton missing person report for Dick Grayson while he's in the Batcave on
the milk carton? No,
that's just Miller had that idea, but it was 3 issues ago, and who can remember what happened 3 issues ago? That was 12 years ago. There's a lot to unpack for that issue.
The
series.
All-Star line is a line that I really wish had continued.
Me too.
I wish because there's talk, or actually it was sort of confirmed by Greg last year that his Wonder Woman year 1 that he did in Rebirth was going to be his All-Star Wonder Woman run.
Would have taken that. That I assume that would have been the thing to do, right? I mean,
and then there was also supposed to be an All-Star Batgirl written by Jeff Johns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I would have taken that too. Yeah.
And then there was one other one. I think there was an All-Star Aquaman, and I can't remember who was going to write that too. But they announced all of them, and they were like, "We're going to slowly pepper them out."
Yeah.
And then as soon as the delays on Batman started happening, and I think they also happened on Superman as well.
Yeah.
They just dropped them all.
That's the thing. I think I blame All-Star Batman for the death of the entire line, because All-Star Superman, while there were delays, is still hailed as one of the top 3 best Superman stories of all time.
I mean, I think I call it my favorite comic book of all time.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we struck gold. Let's do Batman, and let's get Jim Lee and Frank Miller. How could you go wrong?
How could you go wrong? Yeah.
Well, here's exactly how.
Yep.
Here's an 8 issues story arc about how you can go wrong. Because damn. But yeah, delayed and never returned. And then of course they even teased it. They dared to tease us. They were like, don't worry. Hey, remember that book that clearly is never going to end? Well, we're going to rebrand it and then end it. Mm-hmm. No. I assume, by the way, that Lee would not draw the last few issues of that series.
It's one of these things where it's right now there'd be no point to ending it at all, or doing it at all.
No.
But if you did, it'd be hey, just give it to Andy Kubert.
Oh God, yeah.
Just give it to Andy Kubert.
Yeah.
But also, to be honest with you, when they finish Dark Knight 3, that might be the perfect time.
Yeah.
To just because they've said forever that those scripts for the last 6 issues are finished. Supposedly.
Right. I buy that. I mean, it's been almost 10 years.
you would think. Yeah. So just give him to Andy Kubert, brand him as Dark Knight Boy Wonder, and then hey, you can keep that Dark Knight train running.
Exactly. God.
Because whatever you think about Dark Knight 3, I really thought the beginning of it was really good, and now since the delays, I've kind of been okay, but it still sells really well.
Yeah, again, it's because when it comes out, you go, oh yeah, I still have those issues. I'll buy it. It's not damn it, every month I got to make a choice about what I can prioritize, what I have to get, because that book is not indispensable, but it does exist, and I'm buying it every time it comes out, and. Mostly it's because I'm I want to get ready for back issues, because there's no question I'm going to do that book. But yeah.
All right, so I have another one for you.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. We're going back into Warren Ellis territory.
Okay.
The man who's no stranger to delays.
Right.
Remember when in 2006 he revived the New Universe?
Yeah.
With Salvador Larroca?
Oh, yeah. That was...
And Salvador Larroca drew everybody as movie stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember being like, "Wow!" I remember when they teased it. They were like, "Here's the logo," and I'm like, "Oh, right, New Universe from like '86 or whatever. How cool! They're gonna bring it back." And then no.
Now there's a little bit of a story here. So they did 6 issues apparently, and there's like one trade. There's one hardcover trade that you can find in the like the dollar bins at comic book conventions everywhere.
Yeah.
And they did 2 issues of a follow-up series called New Universal Shockwave, but then apparently the story is that Warren Ellis lost all of his notes and scripts for the series in a computer crash.
Oh God, that's the worst.
And then apparently he was just like,
Yeah, you know what's funny? If I were him, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to rewrite that.
This is a series that I remember always being very curious about. But I never picked it up, and I always saw that trade, and I was going to be like, "Well, I like Warren Ellis, I like Salvador Lorca, but like there was just something of a thing that just I never picked it up."
Yeah, I wanted to like the New Universe, but I didn't.
Oh, did you read it?
I read the original New Universe. Like I checked that out, and I was like, "Oh, cool, neat idea." But it didn't connect with me, and I was like, I'm not down for that. And I picked up, I think, the first like issue of whatever they were doing with it, and I was like, "Yeah, I still don't care." Like, it just didn't connect with me. And yeah, I don't blame them for not continuing that series. But that sucks. The computer crash thing. That's like, yeah. Most of these are probably just people being like, "I'm busy" or "I don't have time." But like to have your work ripped from your hands and then go, I don't know. How did it sell? And it's like, not well, man. Oh, well then fuck it. Just end the series.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah. Now here's one that I'm sad has never finished. And I'm kind of mad that it hasn't finished because I think this book is great.
Yeah.
Jonathan Hickman's S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's a sin that won't end.
Yes.
And Hickman is such a troll that every few months on Twitter he'll be like, "Hey,
God,
I found my S.H.I.E.L.D. files." Like, fuck you.
Now, how many issues? I have that hardcover, but I don't know how many issues of it have been actually released so far.
I want to say it was 11?
Is it actually that many?
I thought it was quite a few, but I might be
look
mistaken.
At the trade right now and figure it out. Hopefully the trade will tell me.
Yeah.
Come on, Amazon, don't be a bitch to me. Collects 1 through 6.
Okay, so it's only 6. Oh,
they've only done 6 issues. It was supposed to be 12 issues. And it says here that like originally beginning in 2010, the series revision over 12 issues in 2 volumes. The Mind series, blah 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 blah. After S.H.I.E.L.D. number 3 was published in late 2011, the final 2 issues of the series went unreleased while the creators were working on Avengers. So apparently, there's a couple more issues that I don't have or I've never read.
Yeah.
But you were exactly right. Okay, so if anybody out there, if you don't know what this book is, it's basically Hickman saying it's Hickman's idea that S.H.I.E.L.D. has kind of existed forever.
Yeah.
And then it keeps being reinterpreted into new organizations. Like it's been around since Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci, as played by Leonardo DiCaprio,
right,
eventually fights Galactus in the past, and that's about keeping like the Skrulls and the Kree and Galactus away from Earth. It's an amazing book.
Yeah.
Even without a conclusion, it's amazing.
It's still great. It's still people's favorite series. Like even though there's no conclusion, but yeah, because it's just it's playing with Marvel cosmology in a way that you want. Like it creates this beautiful history. It elicits a feeling like for me for like Earth X, only more cool.
Oh yeah.
Only more cool. I like the idea behind Earth X more than I like the execution of Earth X, and so I like. I
can read Earth X, but it gets pretty talky sometimes. So
yeah, there's not a lot of action in that book, despite the fact that everyone on the planet has superpowers. But yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D., man, that's a sin, and I don't think Hickman is even close to ever working for Marvel again. So I think that you're never going to see that series.
You know what? I want to ask you, what do you think is the story behind that? Because he seemed like he was going to be Marvel's new top dog.
Yeah.
Until Secret Wars, and then Secret Wars happened, and it kind of seemed like now here's the other question I wonder is because Matt Fraction was the same way, and then he did Fear Itself, and then Fear Itself like drove him away from Marvel.
It could be the event experience. It could be like just just such a corporate like anti-art approach to creating events and what you need to do, and I'm sure there's a assload of editorial control that goes into creating an event where you're like, trust me, I know comic readers and I'm a really talented writer. I know how to sell an event without having to do all this chicanery, and the powers that be just being like, we've been doing this a few decades. We know how to handle it, and just really discouraging creators. That could be the way it is. I don't know, like the how the sausage is made when it comes to events. At least as far as like the true story. My guess is because Hickman sets up the Marvel Universe for a massive reboot. The fact that Marvel knew kind of like towards the end that they weren't going to pull the trigger, and the fact that there were like commands from on high that pushed the importance of the Fantastic Four away.
And Hickman loves the Fantastic Four.
Dude made his bones in the Fantastic Four. Like everybody agrees that Hickman's run on Fantastic Four rivals even like Stan Lee's run. I mean,
it's up there. I put it up there with John Byrne and Mark Waid.
Yeah, no question. And the dude loves it. And Hickman unequivocally believes that the Fantastic Four and its mythology are intrinsically tied to the like lifeblood of Marvel. And so,
I agree with that statement, though.
Well, the
Fantastic Four were the first heroes.
I agree. No, they're the first family of Marvel. You can't, and everything that ever was and will be is like was started from there. I mean, like, you know, sure, Cap predates it, but like, Fantastic Four dared to go to the stars and show us what was there and beyond. Went from the lowest depths of the ocean to the farthest reaches of space and filled in the gaps. I can imagine that, like, knowing the culture of Marvel at that time and knowing, like, well, Perlmutter says no Fantastic Four because Fox, and then just leave, and then just going. Like, I'd rather just create books myself and just not deal with the headache. I feel like it's probably just no being a smart guy and seeing the writing on the wall and just kind of like, because he hasn't said anything, at least as far as I know, he hasn't said anything like outright insulting about Marvel. He hasn't been like F Marvel. It wasn't like when Straczynski left Marvel and he's like, Quesada's a hack and I hated it and I hate everything. Meh.
Yeah.
Like, Hickman just kind of disappeared. Just stopped being there one day. You know. I feel like it might be something like that, where he just kind of decided to do that.
I could see that, man. And you are right. Like, if you read Secret Wars, it really reads like a Crisis on Infinite Earths for the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And it is so setting up the Marvel Universe for a reboot.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't happen, you're just like, oh.
And and then, of course, all new Marvel was just... You go from this high and this
all
big...
new, all different? Yeah.
All new, all different. Yeah, all new, all different Marvel. Ugh, nothing good about that. I mean, like...
Oh, man. Yeah.
Just what a disappointment.
They should have rebooted.
I agree. At this point, I do agree. You know, it's funny. It reminds me of a book that never finished that John Byrne used to work on.
Sure.
Called The Last Galactus Story.
I know of that one, yeah.
That is a cool idea. Just this, like... I think there were 9 issues, and then they just were like, nah.
Yeah, they just stopped. Whatever.
But it was such a neat idea, and of course it's John Byrne's art at like the height of John Byrne art, where it's like this is what Marvel should look like all the time. But just the concept that like Galactus will, and by the way, tied in with the Secret Wars thing, because it would have culminated in the reboot of the Marvel Universe, because I think Galactus would ingest the world or the universe and then create a new universe out of the energy expulsion or something like that. But just a neat idea that just never went anywhere, never grew, and it was like, that's sad. Like, and John Byrne was not quiet about that.
No, he is never quiet about anything. John Byrne.
Exactly. Man, S.H.I.E.L.D. that sucks.
Here's another Marvel thing that we could talk about. Is have you ever heard about the Mark Millar series called War Heroes? I don't know that one. Okay, it was an Image series that he did in 2008. It was Mark Millar and Tony Harris from Starman, and it's actually a really, really good book. And it's actually Millar's pitch for Ultimates 3.
Oh God! Okay, yeah, I've heard of this now.
that Marvel wouldn't let him do.
Yeah.
So he changed it, of course, and the series is about like a group of con artists who have infiltrated the military to steal like power bestowing pills.
Okay.
And as they as the con men get the pills, they're like, well, I don't know if we should sell them anymore. Well, maybe we should be superheroes. It's a 5-issue miniseries. Only 3 issues were ever released. The last issue came out in 2008.
Okay.
And it was sold to Sony.
Oh.
And Tony Harris has come out publicly and said that he would love to finish the book anytime, any day.
Mm-hmm.
He's never received scripts.
That sucks.
It's
funny. It's too bad Marvel didn't let him just make Ultimates 3 because
what we got for Ultimate 3, holy god.
Holy man. Oops. Maybe you should have just gone with Miller, man. But that sucks. I wonder what that's all about. Like, why Miller won't just give him the pages? Because it's an independent series. It's your book.
Especially if you sold the movie.
Yeah. Well, and man, isn't it funny? Have you heard, like, everybody's selling their movies to Sony, and I haven't seen a single frame of movie.
Well, it's that's the interesting thing about Hollywood.
Yeah.
Sal, is that these companies will offer you ginormous paychecks for your IP, and that doesn't mean that they actually have to make the damn thing.
Oh no, they just want to buy it.
Yeah. But as a writer or as a producer, like, and as somebody who's working on a comic book, like, right now, if somebody came to me right now and was like, "We'll give you $1 million for that," I don't see any world where I say no.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
well, if you have any faith in yourself as a creator, you'll be like, that's fine, I'll make another one.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't blame any of them.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, it's sad because, like, you hear about all these projects and you're just like, and some of them, as I understand it, like, some movie studios will be like, I'm just gonna buy it so that somebody else can't get it.
Exactly, and they'll just sit on it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the big granddaddy of delays.
Yeah.
Image United.
Oh, man, is that ever going to come out?
No, it's not.
No. Did they? I heard they even had the audacity to talk about it when they all got together at, was it Emerald City?
Oh, yeah, it was Emerald City because that's their 25th this year.
Yeah, and they all got together.
They actually talked about it?
I heard they talked about it. I don't remember, but, like, I think that didn't happen. Actually, let me look that up because I actually really want to know about that.
Yeah, I do tell. So, like, if you guys don't know what Image United is, it's basically like this book where they had all the characters of the Image universe team up. They had, like, Badrock, they had, like, Warblade, Spawn, they had Shadowhawk, Witchblade, and they all teamed up. Savage Dragon all teamed up together, and then you eventually learned that the real villain was Al Simmons' Spawn, because at that time Spawn was a different guy.
Yeah.
Jim Hammond or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah. Not my Spawn.
Now it doesn't even work because McFarlane has brought back Al Simmons to being Spawn.
Yeah, and so if Al Simmons' Spawn is back, they're not going to do that. It's funny. I was thinking about when they launched Image United and they were like, Al Simmons' Spawn's going to be the bad guy, and I was like, didn't they do that already? And then I remembered that Alan Moore wrote a Spawn WildCATS crossover.
Where Spawn was the bad guy?
Where Spawn was the bad guy. Like,
wow, I did not know that.
At the end of the book, it turns out, like, they go to the future, and Spawn is the main bad guy. He kills Malbolgia, becomes the leader of Hell, and, like, Cyan, his non-daughter, becomes the new, God, what's her name? Zealot. And
I'm reading, I just went to the Wikipedia, I'm looking at this cover. How did I not know about this event in the 90s?
Let me tell you, I was a Spawn fanatic, as I'm sure many of us were. And
I was too, but apparently, and a WildCATS fanatic, but apparently not enough of one.
You would love it. It's funny because, like, you could tell Moore hates Spawn. He thinks he's so dumb. Because he wrote, I think he wrote one issue of Spawn.
He did.
And it has no Spawn in it. It's all about Billy Kincaid being in Hell.
Oh, really?
it's really weird. It's very weird. But yeah, I think Moore wrote that.
He did. I'm looking at it right now. It's Alan Moore and Scott Clark.
When I bought it, I didn't know that Alan Moore wrote it. I wasn't paying attention, or I didn't notice. And then, like, I was looking up something for like maybe about a year ago, and I'm like, holy crap, that was Alan Moore? Yes! I might have to do this on a show sometime, because, like, it's so shameless and stupid.
By the way, I think it's on Comixology. I'm looking for it right now.
Oh, great! You gotta read it, because it's real Spawn, it's before issue 50 or whatever, so it's before he died and came back and built the throne out of bodies and skulls. But yeah, check out Spawn WildCATS. But anyway, they did it already. I was like, they did Evil Spawn. What the hell? But yeah, Image United sucks.
But the idea behind Image United.
I love the
good
idea. Oh yeah.
And especially the idea of like combining their art styles on a single page.
Yeah. Neat concept.
That was a genius idea, I thought, but like that immediately was going to slow you down.
Oh yeah.
Especially with all these guys who are already slow.
Right. That's the thing. Like, if you ever go back, I think there isn't a single episode that we've done where we haven't mentioned Wizard Magazine. If you ever go back and pick up a Wizard Magazine, because they're like about a quarter, you can get them online. I remember solicitations for image books, or for the next issue of an image book, and I remember distinctly there was one, I think it was Youngblood, and it was like it says on the thing, an almost monthly series, because they just can't commit.
Do you remember what book it was?
I want to say it was Youngblood, but I think it might have been like
almost monthly series.
Almost monthly series, and they put it with like, and it's not like a joke. There's no like picture of Rob Liefeld going like, I don't know, like whoops, like it's so self-aggrandizing and yet also so like self-effacing, because they have no idea how insulting it is that they can't get like a 22-page issue out on time. But yeah, man. So the fact that like Image had when those guys first started, all their books were always late.
Yeah.
100%. And then you get them all to come. We're getting the band back together. Of course, it's good. The first joke anyone made was that it was going to be late.
You know, speaking of Image, did you see the April Fool's joke that was done by Scott Snyder and Jock?
No, I should have, because I follow both of them.
They released an issue. They did a piece of art that was like the Savage Dragon, new arc by Scott Snyder and Jock.
What? That's craziness. That's a fun idea.
Art looks amazing, and it was an April Fool's joke, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, all right, I guess I'm buying Savage Dragon.
Yeah. Now here's the question: Did they have Eric Larson's like blessing / like was he in on it?
Apparently. Now, what I could find about this, I'm gonna try to find it on Twitter real quick. He did not know about it either, but he like commented on it and was like, "Guys, I'd love to see this too."
I found it. Yep.
So no,
Snyder
I'm going to Jock's. I only saw it because I followed Jock on Twitter, and like he shared this amazing image.
Yeah.
If I can find it, I'll put it in the chat too.
Here, it's on his Instagram. I just got it.
Oh yeah. Isn't that an amazing image?
That's cool.
Maybe it was only on his Instagram.
It just says Witches is taking a back seat.
Yeah, but there was a joke, because they were like, no, we're actually working on
Witches. It's amazing.
Yeah,
the cover is just.
I'll go find Eric Larson's Twitter, because he did directly comment on it.
Oh, awesome! There's literally the cover is of Savage Dragon. It says first issue in a bold new direction by Scott Snyder and Jock, and then an asterisk, and then at the bottom it just says not really.
Oh yeah, so Eric Larson has a tweet about it. Here, I'll find it right here, and he says, alternate cover by Jock. Like many of you, I was disappointed to find out this was an April Fool's Day gag, because I was reading.
I sure would. Man, that's a show we should do. Just series that just never happened. Like series that
that would be great.
Series we were promised but we'll never see.
Well, I have one of those right now.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
A series that was promised but we'll never see. The Jeff Loeb, J. Scott Campbell Spider-Man.
That was a heartbreaker for me. That was not going to happen.
April 26th, and like it's supposed to be a 12-issue run between the two of them, kind of like it was described as Spider-Man's Hush.
Yeah.
And then like it just never happened.
Yeah. I remember that. I think that also kicked off the J. Scott Campbell like Spider-Man cover trend, because he did like a shitload of covers for Spider-Man, and in fact he still does like variant covers for them.
Yeah, he still does.
But that kind of started his relationship. They must have like penned a contract, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're not going to do that. But if you want to do covers for us, that's cool." Mm-hmm. I would have read the shit out of that. I had heard when that first was announced. I had heard that originally it was Kevin Smith and J. Scott Campbell.
Really?
And then Quesada went, "No, it's not. We'll put Jeff Loeb on it. Like, just don't do that. No, like, yeah."
Another one that's interesting is, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Miracleman.
Miracleman.
So Miracleman actually is kind of on this list twice.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because originally, when it was originally published, back in the 80s, it was Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham, and they did Miracleman: The Golden Age, which was going to be a trilogy of the Silver Age and the Dark Age.
Yes.
And then when Marvel, a couple years ago, got the rights to Miracleman,
Yep.
they started republishing all the old stuff, and they were like, you know what? We're going to republish all the way up into the into the Golden Age, and then we have Neil Gaiman, and he's going to write the Silver Age and the Dark Age.
That's why he sold Angela. They got Angela, and they were going to have him do the Miracleman. Yeah.
Silver Age has never happened.
No. And I don't think it ever will.
And I don't think it ever will either. I don't know. Apparently, Axel Alonso has said, this is his quote, he says, "We're just waiting until we have a seamless release from reprint to original material." And I'm just like, no, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've had like 3 years to put this together, and and nothing's happened. And I'm disappointed by this because I actually had never read the original Miracleman.
Yeah.
And so when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna publish these issues," and I was like, "Oh, great! I'm gonna I'll buy them. I'll buy them monthly. I'll help support this."
Yeah.
So I started buying them monthly, started enjoying Miracleman, and then it just stopped.
Right.
And I was like, "What the hell?"
That's why I didn't do that, because I was like, I don't think this is gonna happen.
Smart man.
And you can't go back because like a lot of those books are not in print.
Yeah.
So. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought we'd end this our list on a happy note.
Okay.
This is a series that was, delayed, not finished, and now it's going to be. That is Mage by Matt Wagner.
Matt Wagner.
Yeah. So Mage the Hero Defined back in the 80s, great freaking book. Oh no, Hero Discovered, excuse me. Then the second one was an Image book called Mage the Hero Defined. It's 15 years later, and then at the Image Expo this year, they announced Mage the Hero Defeated.
Yeah. And
I am so excited for that book.
I never read Mage. I was aware of him, but I was aware of his. I read his Grendel, but I didn't read his Mage. But I was always like, what is couldn't really understand what it was about. I was like, is this a dude with a bat? All right.
I'm gonna pitch you on Mage. Real quick. All right. Kevin Matchstick is the lead character of Mage. Okay, he's the guy with the hair you see.
Yeah.
He eventually learns that he is the reincarnation of King Arthur.
Okay.
And he meets a man who eventually finds out who is Merlin.
Right.
And it's set in modern day, who gives him Excalibur once he becomes worthy. And in this world, Excalibur becomes what you deem it to be. So for Kevin, it becomes a baseball bat.
Right. Okay.
And then he's a comic book nerd, which is the reason why he wears the lightning bolt.
Okay.
And that's the story. And it's the reincarnation of King Arthur fighting demons. Yeah,
I'll read that because let me tell you, I'd seen Mage paraphernalia for forever since I was a child, and
Hold on 1 second, I'm going to show you something really cool.
Oh, sweet. Because I was going to say I can't. Oh no, you have the action figure?
I have the action figure.
Oh.
And I can't remember what company made this in the 90s, but they also made the Madman figure and the
Jay and Silent Bob figures.
The Jay and Silent Bob figures. And also this bat glows in the dark.
That as well it should, because that's his defining. I had the Jay and Silent Bob figures, and I remember it was the same company that made the Mage figure. I'm like, nice try, Matt Wagner. I'm still not gonna get Mage, and I had no idea what the hell Mage was. That premise, I'm like sold. I'm like, that took 2 seconds. How is that so hard for me to understand who that is? Like, damn it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I will say this: the first series, the first volume, which is Mage, the Hero Discovered, it's very 80s.
Okay, I'm down. I like 80s stuff. So
okay, well, it's very 80s. And then the second book, so you might have, if you're gonna have a hard time reading, it's gonna be reading the first volume. But the first volume is really enjoyable. I actually prefer the second one because the second one is 15 years later, and that's where Matt Wagner's art style becomes like the art style that he drew for that Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman book Trinity.
Oh God, yes. Okay.
And the second book is about him trying to find other mythical reincarnated figures.
Oh, okay.
So he finds Hercules, and
and
Hercules is a jerk,
right?
And then he tries to go. I can't remember. It's about him reuniting other reincarnated figures.
Nice.
So
that's fun.
I don't know what I assume since the hero defeated. I assume King Arthur is going to die.
Yeah, he has to.
So
That's cool.
But I'm very. That was like the best announcement from Image Expo was that was coming back.
Yeah, I had heard that news and I went, all right, like because I have no connectivity to it. That's so funny.
All on Comixology. Go try them. I remember I jumped into them simply because they were like on sale one time, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finally read these.
Yeah. I saw Matt Wagner at Emerald City. He walked by the booth and I went, hey, Matt Wagner, you rock. And he's like, yep.
He's like, yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I do.
Thanks,
I interviewed him for Baltimore Comic Con one time, and he was super nice to talk to. He was working at that they scooped up a whole bunch of really great like writers and artists for some terrible thing that I don't remember what they were working on, but it's long dead and it never went anywhere. It never sold, and they were promoting that, and I was like, but you invented Grendel though, so let's talk about that.
He's done a lot of good stuff. Matt Wagner is a
terrific artist, great writer.
Yeah, he's a king amongst men. Like a friend of mine works in Vertigo, and every time I see him, I'm like, hey, what are you going to do to convince Matt Wagner to do a Vertigo book? Because he should be doing a Vertigo book.
There's no excuse for him not doing one.
Yeah. Matt, it's interesting. There are certain creators, and again, we don't know like a lot of the politics behind the scenes most of the time. But there's certain creators where you're just like, man, how come they aren't working at the big two? Like, why don't they have like Superman or Batman or even Spider-Man right now?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's got to be just weird politics where it's like
just weird. It's got to be weird politics because like, where's Matt Wagner on Batman? Come on,
that's a no-brainer. I mean, like, yeah. No, I hear you, man.
Give Matt Wagner. I'd love to see Matt Wagner draw Daredevil.
Yeah, big time.
Like,
you know what he could do? He could draw. Bendis can write it, and we could have the Batman Daredevil crossover drawn by Matt Wagner.
There you go, man. It sounds awesome.
You know, Bendis would want Maleev though, so.
He wants to leave Marvel completely.
No, I was saying he'll want Maleev, Alex Maleev.
Oh yeah. His good friend that is drawing a very boring.
You know what? Screw it. You know what you need? You get instead of Bendis, you get Brubaker.
There you go. Sure.
Brubaker would write a hell of a Batman.
Now I want to ask you, man.
Yeah.
Of all the books I've talked about today, I'm a Magic Genie. I give you one wish. What's the book you bring back?
Oh man. Out of this list.
Of the list we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's not necessary. I would want to see that Jeff Loeb, J. Scott Campbell book, the Spider-Man book, because it's like, why not? It's such a great self-contained thing. But there's so many Spider-Man stories. You could take them or leave them.
Oh yeah.
Shit, I don't know. I guess Miracleman, because it deserves. And I want Miracleman to have ended or to have been finished the way that it was planned when Quesada set up that whole thing. Do you remember that he tried to get Moore to come back?
I do, and like Moore was just like, I'm done with superhero comics.
He said yes. Like he goes, you can only do it under this weird condition, and it was you have to put credit to these several creators on the cover of the first volume of your Miracleman reprint. And Quesada's like, done. And due to a printing error, they weren't on the damn cover.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, and Moore was like, see, Marvel can't make it, they can't make one promise. And Quesada's like, no, it was a printing error, look, we'll do it again. He's like, nope, you said, that was the deal. And I'm like, damn it.
I'm going to look this up.
I remember that was the story I heard when it was happening, and I'm like, ah! So I want that, where it's like, it got printed, and Moore's like, all right, I'm a man of my word, I'll do it, all right then. And just let him finish it.
I'm a wizard.
I live in a cave by myself. I would love...
everything.
We're never going to get Alan Moore on this show. I would love to get Alan Moore's daughter on this show.
He has a daughter?
He does, and she's like our age.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah.
He's an old man.
She should break his heart and become a YouTuber.
She should.
Hi, everybody, I'm Miss Moore, and I'm doing the show. Let's do it.
It should be like her channel should be like why Alan Moore sucks.
Oh my God, he'll never know it exists either because he doesn't have. He probably has like
do an issue by issue breakdown of
me dad's.
Dad is terrible.
Oh, me dad's garbage books. That's a character we have to do. Yeah, she did.
Read Watchmen.
She posted
garbage.
You look up her picture. She has Pokemon Go on her phone, and she took a picture of him, and there's like a Zubat next to him in his cave. It's goddamn amazing. Cave? In his little magic cave.
Leah Moore. Leah Moore. Yeah, right here.
She does cool things.
Her own Wikipedia entry.
She's a real person. She like does stuff.
Oh, she's quite older than I am.
Okay, so she's older than us. Right on. I was like, I thought she was around our age, but she might be older.
He's got 2 kids. He has Amber Moore and Leah Moore. Amber Moore is his younger daughter.
That's probably who it was.
Interesting. So that's probably who you're thinking about, like Pokemon.
Yeah, with the Pokemon Go. I love the idea that he's like, "Oh, I don't like that you use Pokemon Go." Animal cruelty. I don't care for that. But,
is Alan Moore? There's an interesting question. Is Alan Moore even writing comic book? What is Alan Moore doing?
He's working on movie. Like, he's trying to get into the movie industry, but like
I knew he did that book Jerusalem, which I actually thought about buying simply to see if maybe a prose novel by him would be great, because I think look, I hung in with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen until I could, but like, man, by the 4th volume it was just like it just is complete rubbish. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. I never thought about buying Jerusalem, but he's working on something regarding like independent movies and stuff. He wants to like write scripts and stuff. He's trying to get into something, but he is working, and he helped somebody out with like a Kickstarter campaign recently.
Oh wow,
Alan Moore Kickstarter, because he did a Kickstarter with somebody, and he's like movies, Cinema Purgatorio by Avatar Press. That's what he's doing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, his Wikipedia entry is not very updated at all. It just says that all the money that he would have gotten.
Oh God.
From all the stuff that he refused.
Yeah, which like. Right on, man. But, like, here's the thing. V for Vendetta is a better movie than a comic. Sorry, Moore. Gotcha.
It is. I 100% agree with you.
Thank you.
People think I'm crazy when I say that, but
do!
That movie is way better than that comic book.
It is so much better. It takes a great concept, and it makes it even better by making V a real person instead of, like, a monster, like, douchebag. Like,
yeah. Whatever.
I mean, like, I get having an evil protagonist or, like, an unsympathetic protagonist, but, like, that's not what Moore was doing with V for Vendetta. It's all mixed up, like, the Old Bailey building explosion, the Parliament explosion is in the beginning. It is boring. That's the worst it can be. The worst thing that a comic or any kind of piece of entertainment can be is boring. It can be controversial or offensive or inflammatory, but the worst thing it could do is be boring. Yeah. And that's what it is. But anyway, yeah, man, Miracleman. That's never gonna happen. But
Miracleman.
But we are getting Mage. So
we are getting Mage. My pick would actually be S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh yeah. Oh god. That's it. Yeah. Finish S.H.I.E.L.D.
My pick would be S.H.I.E.L.D. just because I want that really awesome hardcover that I can like lend out to people.
Yeah.
So
we've gotten that. It's so good.
Not Image United.
No, that can stay where it is. It needs to be unfinished because it perfectly exemplifies the Image United experience.
Yep.
Like, look, the original team got together and didn't finish something, just like always.
Didn't do anything.
Didn't finish. But Jason, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, man. I always have fun coming over here.
Ditto, man. What's happening on Jawiin that we can all look forward to checking out this week?
Of course, you got Geek History Lesson every single week, and then also Flash videos. I'm still doing Flash Theory videos until Flash comes back. But this Saturday, I'm doing a Q&A for my 50,000th subscriber on YouTube. Just cross that, just like you're going to do. It looks like very soon.
Yeah, we're looking at about a week or so, maybe less.
So I have a post up on my Twitter, so if there's a question you guys want to know about me or anything like that, go to my Twitter. It's pinned at the top of my profile page, and ask it, and if I like it, it'll make it in the video.
Nice. Check it out, guys. But, yeah, that's awesome. Over here on ComicPOP, of course, you can check out this episode of the Elseworlds Exchange on Friday. The audio will be out now. It'll be out 5 minutes from now. And be sure to stay tuned, because back issues this week, Tiffany led the episode where we did Monsters Unleashed, the event nobody read. So check it out.
It is nobody read that.
Nobody read it. I didn't.
Yeah.
And she loved it. So find out why.
It wasn't bad.
I heard it wasn't bad either. Cullen Bunn's a good writer, so it's all right. But it wasn't my cup of tea, but we'll see how it goes. But from all of us here, we'll see you guys next week. So long.